We have also rostered that employee. So we've rostered that employee. We've gone through sort of all the rostering elements in the system itself. The employee now arrives for work, right? And there's a number of ways that he arrives for work. So he either arrives at the location, and in that case, we have the ability for him to clock in and out on a tablet, which I'm going to go into in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
He can clock in and out on a desktop computer. So if they've got a computer that's sort of sitting there that they have for the guy to put in his PIN, or he can do it as you've sort of tested and tried on the mobile clocking device, where you've clocked in, it's taken a photo, and it's created a bunch of questions that we can set up, and obviously you clock in and it creates your in clock and then your out clock, and then ultimately creates the timesheet with the costed location. So
just a quick question there, Nigel. I was obviously now, when I clocked out this morning, and I clocked in again for the new shift, and obviously I used my phone. Now on the phone's screen, let me just go into it quickly. Just open it, and obviously this is me being the employee, JW Ward.
Yes, correct.
And then it obviously tells me what my current shift is. It says available shifts. It gives my roster. If I click on roster, it'll tell me everything from what's happening this week, which is great. But it doesn't give me an option to check my timesheet. So in other words, to see the hours from yesterday.
Yes.
When I clocked in and out.
So what we can do is you can have access to that. It's actually a custom permission, which which allows me to click that button on and give you access to your timesheets. So actually, just as we do that, why not actually set that up now? Again, this is something that Charlene will go through with you, but we have got custom permissions that we can give people access to. I'm going to just say timesheets and timesheet access. And I can essentially go and say, view everything. I'm just going to actually give this permission set absolutely everything in the view. And you can see that there's a number of different items that we can set up in custom permissions.
And the reason why I asked this is because obviously with my security background, and it possibly is the same for restaurants, etc., but just on a security background, because remember, the managers that are using this easy roster program, what they're doing is their process is at the start of a cycle, they will print these rosters and they'll take it out to all the sites. And then it gets lost in the system because, inevitably the person you want to give it to is actually off that day. So you entrust it in the hands of another security on the site to put it up on the notice board and that everybody gets to see it. But they find a way of using it for toilet paper or what have you. Then obviously the guy now, for all intents and purposes, he gets his roster and he knows how he must work and how he works. Now you come to the closing of that pay cycle.
Correct.
And the managers have got to print all the timesheets and take the timesheets out to site again. So in order to stop that paper trail, if it was seen on the tablet or seen on the individual smartphone, then he has real time a view of his shifts completed that he has done so far, and that just takes a lot of the issues out.
So if you go and close your app now and reopen it on your phone, you'll see another little button there. It's called timesheets.
All right, it's closed and open. There I see it, right at the bottom. Okay. Cool.
And if people are not clocking in and out either, they can also submit timesheets. So you can create a timesheet and put it in.
Do do you have an auto clock out? For example,
No.
Joe Soap has disappeared off the site. He forgot to clock out. And
No.
the system, when it reaches a certain time, clocks him out automatically.
Unfortunately not. It is a feature we're looking at, but there's some security protocols behind that that we need to, because it's not an express input from an employee, so therefore to automatically clock him out, you actually need that in your contract of employment to say that the system will give you a certain amount of hours at the end of the day if you don't clock out. But there's some complexity behind that. But anyway, so let me talk to you about timesheet management and essentially what happens. So number one, we've got the roster for the week, right? And we've got JW Ward and all his shifts that are planned throughout the course of the week, right? Mm-hmm. This automatically translates into a number of timesheets that are already planned for that employee. So if we go and look at this unassociated shifts and clock entries and we click down there, we can essentially see all the shifts in that week that are planned, right? Yes. So we had for the 23rd of May, which you've already clocked in and clocked out of, and it's associated you next to that timesheet, right? We've got one on the 24th, and if we click on there, you can see that you've clocked in at 9:31 this morning. But what it's waiting for is your clock out to move this timesheet from here to up here. So once you do that a bit later this afternoon, you're going to notice that this timesheet moves from here to here and becomes a then completed timesheet, as we call it that. Mm-hmm. What we can see is that there's additional timesheets on the 26th, 27th, but there's no clocks associated to those because you obviously haven't clocked in and out.
Yeah. Any particular reason why that's not in numerical order? I see it goes 24, 26, 27, and then 25.
That's because on the 25th, actually, good point. I think it's just because there's the date format, so I'm clicking it now.
Okay.
So there, 25, 26, 27, 24th, why? I think it's because there's a transaction against the 24th already. So therefore, no, good point, actually. I've never noticed that. 24th, 25th. Wonder why. Backup house. Oh, that's why. Because so at this stage, all those timesheets except for that one is at the back of house. So it's at a different location.
Okay. All right.
So this one's at a back of house location. So it's just because it's at a different location that it's so because typically, the manager of back of house is not going to be at this top level. They're going to be at this back of house location. So they're only going to see JW Ward's for back of house. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're not going to be at that top level location and only see that data that's necessary for that. So again, a couple of filter options as we get there. So we've got the week, we can see it by week, day, fortnight, month, custom, right? So we can see it for a specific period of time if we want, or we can see it for the week, the 23rd to the 29th. We can then also group timesheets according to different filters. So we can group it by day. So there's Monday, the 23rd, and if we click down on there, we can then see, all the timesheets for May, the 23rd. We can see it by location, so all the locations that we might have. So if we are approving by location, we can see it by employee name. So this is your typical timesheet that you're used to. There's JW Ward, Monday, 7.5 hours. Tuesday, nothing so far. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, total 7.5 hours. Total cost 192, and if we click down, we can obviously see all the timesheets that JW Ward has, and all the upcoming timesheets that have not been executed on just yet from that perspective. We can also see it by position, so what bartenders. So if we are approving for a specific position, then we can just see all the bartenders and go and approve those, or we can go and see it by status. Now, status means in what status is the timesheet. At this stage, this is an approved timesheet. So what's happened is JW Ward's clocked in or clocked out, and JW Ward, well, Jason Ward, has approved that timesheet into that status. Now, there's another 3 steps to go before this timesheet gets into a payroll. Now, the reason why there are different steps is because of segregation of duties. So a manager might approve, a GM might authorize, an HR might commit, and a owner of the business might send it to payroll. Now, one person can do all of the above if that is the case, but it's built for scale, so it allows certain employees to do certain things. And again, that is managed in our custom permission set that I showed you a little bit earlier, where you've got different permissions for different functions for the different people in the business, and that can be customized, set up accordingly as you go. You've also got obviously a summary of all the timesheets at the top in terms of total cost and hours, and cost and hours. And then you've got the ability to go and have a look at these timesheets, add a timesheet if you wanted to for an individual, go and include or go and change the status over here, or go and search for a timesheet. Great if you've got lots of different timesheets, which we'll go and have a look at in a minute, or go and export that into a CSV that can be obviously interrogated from a Excel point of view. As such, it will give you something that looks a bit like that in terms of the Excel attachment. And obviously it's going to give you the Excel view that you're looking at. So if you went and did by position, it'll go and export all that stuff by that position and not by the employee itself. What we do have is a button at the top here, which I'm going to use, called Pay by Roster. So, if, for example, we don't have people clocking in and clocking out, and we just want to pay from the roster, we can click that, and it will take all the timesheets that are in the roster at the moment and complete them. So a good example of that is if we go and populate demo data. So let's just go demo data. And let's go and do rostered shifts, timesheets, and everything for this week. So we go and fill up the process. Right. So if we go now to timesheets and we go and reset this, what we should see is a whole bunch of timesheets that have now been completed. Now, that process of filtering will make a little more sense because now we see more than just one specific timesheet, right? So if we go and group those timesheets according to employee, or we go in and group them in terms of position, here they all are. So let's go and have a look by employee. Now we've got all our employees down our left-hand side and the Monday to Sunday composite, as well as all the hours that are associated. If we go and look at it by location, we can go and see all the different locations. Okay, we've only got 2, but we've got those 2 locations, neither to say. Or position, we can go and see all those positions that we've got there that we've created. And I see you've created some positions, which is cool as well, I think, which is great, yeah. So that's where it starts to make a little bit more sense when it comes to obviously the timesheets and the filtering options. You can also click down here and like you do on an Excel sheet, you can have a look at by position or by date, by time, start time, end time, and the amount in terms of the amount of days, and then the variance as well. And variance means a couple of things. Let's just get a positive variance. But if we look at a positive variance, so these are not costed, but where's the JW Ward one? Because that's a good one. So JW Ward has got 0 variance because what he what he was planned to do is what you're paying him. So there's zero variance between those two numbers. Whereas some of these other boys, this is what we planned to pay him. We actually he only came in for 7 hours. Obviously the costing's a bit upside down here, but therefore he's, we underpaid him, so the variance is lower. So obviously if a customer is looking at, okay, show me all the positive variances and show me all the negative variances, because that's really what I'm interested in. What was planned versus what was executed is what I'm really concerned on. Everything should be like Jay Ward here. Everything should have a zero variance. If what we're planning to do is actually what we're executing on in terms of the business. So that sort of gives you an idea of the timesheet look and feel. Let's just talk about status. So I approve a timesheet. Okay, then I'm going to authorize a timesheet. Why is it blocked by an alert? Oh, because 23rd, JW Ward's got 2 overlapping shifts. Yeah, there's no clock in and there's an overlapping shift. So I'm actually going to just delete that. And now I'll be able to authorize, right? So those blockages, or these little red lines on the side here, indicate if there's a problem with those timesheets. So I've completed those timesheets, but there was no clock in and clock out. Now, can I actually approve this? No, because what I've set up in my alerts side of the system is the ability for people not to approve a timesheet that doesn't have a clock in and clock out, right? Now, all of that's customizable. Again, learn with Charlene later on in the week. But if I go into my alert section of the system setup and I go and look at timesheets and I go and look at, no clock in and clock out, I am blocking that timesheet. Can you see it says blocks here? Yes. So I'm blocking that timesheet. But actually, I want to know that it hasn't happened, but I don't want to block the timesheet. I want to create some flexibility. So therefore, I'm creating dismissible items. So if I go back to those timesheets for the day, and I go and look at old JW Ward again, sorry, not that one. And I see that timesheet that hasn't got that clock in or clock out, right? And now I try and approve it. Oh, what other one is it?
It was on the 27th, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Blocked by an alert. Hold on. Maybe I haven't done it properly here. So timesheet clock in, clock out. I'm actually going to just delete that, to be honest. Oh, I didn't save it. That's why. Clock in, clock out. There's a couple of these entries, clock in, clock out. But as you can see, there's quite a few that you can create. So if you want to create an alert, there's a whole bunch of alerts you can put on timesheets, and you can either block it or you can dismiss it. And there's a whole lot you can create out of shifts. Give this guy minimum days off. So, he needs 2 days off for every 7 days type of thing. So you can create those business rules, if you want to call it that, in the alert section of the system. But now that I've done that, I should be able to approve that timesheet. It's still doing it. No clock in entry. No clock in entry. Well, let me just go back. Am I missing something? Alert. Timesheet. No clock in entry. Sorry. Perfect. Now it should work. So I'm creating quite a bit of flexibility here for my managers. And again, it's up to the business, right? So I can approve this now. I'm going to commit that one. So I'm going to take it to the next stage and the next stage. So now if I look at my statuses, right, I've got one completed, I've got 185 completed timesheets. These are the timesheets that have, come through the system, clocked in, clocked out. The employees completed the timesheet. Then I've got one approved timesheet. So that's managers have approved that timesheet. Then I've got one in authorized format, which is the next stage. Then I've got one in committed, and that's as far as I've gone now. The final stage is sending everything through to payroll. So I'm going to now take all these timesheets, going to approve, I'm going to authorize that one. Now you'll see I've got 2 unauthorized. I'm going to go and bulk do these. So I can go and click on the side here and highlight everybody, and I can go and commit these to payroll. You'll notice now I've got 3 in payroll. I can take all of those and I can move it to the final stage, which is add to a pay run. Now, when I want to add to a pay run, ultimately what will happen is that the HR department or the company connected to this would have created pay runs. Now, let me show you what a pay run is. If I go to payroll, I'm going to create a pay run, and I'm going to say, right, now think of yourself in the security industry. What did you have? You had an April pay run, right? April pay run. And what was this? These are all the people that need to get paid at the end of April. Right, and we're going to go and save that. So it's created the pay run. Now I can go and create a May pay run as well. All right. And essentially, these are some things that are done into the future, when and how they need to be done. May pay run. Okay, 100%. So I've got an April and May pay run. Now if I go back to timesheets and I go back to that committed portion of the timesheet section. So if I went to JW Ward and I went and looked at all the ones in the status, I could go and take those 3 timesheets, and I'm happy with all of that. I'm going to go and add it to a pay run, and then I've got 2 options, April, May. Right, because this is, let's call it the May pay run. I'm just going to add it to the May pay run, and I'm going to save. So what happens is this timesheet is now locked. All the calculations have been done, and ultimately it's going to be sent into that pay run. So when we go to the payroll piece of this system, we're going to go and export that pay run. It's going to tell me exactly what I need to pay everybody from a point of view of normal time hours, overtime hours, whatever, whatever the consequences are. Sorry, let me just run it again. I think I've got some signal challenges here. Right, let's see, are they committed? I don't know why I didn't do it. Let's just go and highlight these, go and add it to the pay run again.
Isn't it May? Supposed to be May?
Oh, yeah, sorry. No problem. I mean, it's just for demonstration purposes. But anyway, so now you can see that move to the payroll status. And ultimately, all my timesheets at the end of a period should live in this bucket, because that means it's finished. It means it's finalized. It's ready to go. It's ready to be payrolled, right?
Yes.
The final step to this process is then, okay, those are all my timesheets payrolled. Then I go out of the system. As a manager or as a supervisor or a GM or whoever I am that have got that to that point in the process, I don't see this payroll button, right? But I am in HR, so I can see the payroll button. I click on the payroll button. I go to pay runs. Let's look at the April pay run. And all of a sudden, I'll see a consolidation of all my timesheets in this April pay run. So we've only sent JW Ward, but there might be 100 down here, 200,
yes.
200 timesheets or whatever. If I click on JW Ward, it'll tell me, right, I've got 3 timesheets, 20 hours. We're going to only pay him normal time. There's the cost, there's all the timesheets, and we're ready to go. So as a payroll manager, I'd be like, okay, let me see what's going on. I've got all my timesheets, they're all finalized, they're all in the bucket, payroll bucket, they're all here. So let me finalize that pay run, right? And when I finalize the pay run, essentially it completes the whole process and allows me to export those summaries. So when I export the summaries, gives me an Excel sheet that is computable, well, is compatible with now things like Simple Pay, right? So I can just basically take this file as it is right now and import it into Simple Pay, and it will compute the payroll as per that. So what it's saying is that JW Ward, his employee reference number in the payroll is number 60 because it's done that through the integration. We need to pay him normal time at a multiplier of 1, and the quantity of normal time hours is 20.5 and the cost is 525. So what it does is it imports that number into the payroll, and then the payroll does the calculations around PAYE, UIF, all of that, and does those deductions accordingly, and then produces the payroll. But ultimately, it becomes as easy as importing this file into the payroll engine, and Bob Gironti, your payroll is already calculated in terms of all the different categories that you might have. In this case, JW Ward's only got normal time, so that's an easy enough one. But he might have overtime and Sunday pay and meal allowance and overtime 1.5 on Saturdays or whatever that may be. But the point is here, Jay, is it's calculated by the system and not by a person trying to figure out how many hours these people have done on a day-to-day basis. So effectively, the loop is complete now. So we've rostered the person, they've pitched up, they've clocked in, clocked out. We're going to show you a couple of ways on how that happens in a minute. And then a timesheet is created, an approval process is followed, and a pay run is created. And then the pay run is imported into the payroll. Now, let's say you didn't have the Simple Pay payroll connected. Let's say you use something like Sage or VIP or one of the others, right? Effectively, that export summary becomes something that you import into 90% of these payroll systems, except an import once it's mapped. So, you know, you'll take that and you'd map in the first import that you do in VIP, you would map the import file that you're bringing in, and VIP would know that Nigel gets paid, you know, 20 Rand an hour, or JW Ward gets paid 20 Rand an hour, and you're going to import the quantity of 20.5. That payroll system is not going to use this last column when it imports. It's only going to say, right, this guy earns 20 Rand an hour, 20 times 20 is X amount in the payroll. So it's quite versatile in terms of how you can then use that export file across, you know, multiple sort of payroll systems. If the customer has gone end to end with us and said, right, I want the Simple Pay and I want the Rubler solution, then it obviously becomes quite a seamless process, because the format is in the right format, and it can just be imported quite simply straight into the payroll itself. So that sort of completes the loop. How do people clock in and clock out? So you've noticed obviously the instrument on the smartphone, you can clock in and clock out here. If we go to settings and we go and look at clock applications here, we've got a whole bunch of items we can use here. So we've got an APK, they call it for Android. We've got a browser clock. So if I click on this, you're going to notice that it pops up nicely over here, and it's blank for now, right? It gives me a funny code, and I'm just going to write that code down quickly now. A8CADACCFF7. How you connect a clocker, so you can have 10 of these, right, on 10 different computers. And then all you need to do to connect the clocker to the system is go and put in the what is it? Let me just, I can't remember what the add device. So I'm going to go and add device, and it brings up a little UI, this bit of our older tech or our older code. That's why it takes a bit of time to pop up here. Okay, so device ID, I'm just going to take that same A8CADACCFF7. and I'm going to allocate that device to a specific location. So maybe that specific location is at the head office. You know, maybe it's the front of house device. Maybe it's the back of sub-location, or maybe it's just the head office. I'm just going to add that device. And what we're going to go and notice is that in a couple of seconds, if we go across to the device and we go and reset it, you'll automatically see it come up, connect to head office, connect to Rubler, and bring you a touchpad.
Okay.
Now, what's your touchpad key? Every employee is given a PIN. You were given.
I mine 312, I believe.
Is it 312? It should be 4 numbers.
I've got I'll double check, but I got a message saying 312 on my phone. But
okay, well, let's go and have a look. JW Wart. I'm just going to show you where you can find this information. So we can go here, PIN 3112.
Oh, 112.
So let's go and clock in 3112. Yes.
There we go.
Kicks the camera, fires it up. All good. Boom, boom. Now you can imagine this on a tablet, on a point of sale device, like a tablet POS device that you use for Lightspeed. That's as simple as it is to get it set up. Really easy, really neat. And it can be run on any device, right? So I can even run this on my cell phone if I wanted to. It doesn't even have to be a smartphone. It can just have internet connection because it is just a URL.
Yes.
So, and in that case, the clock has been done. So the clockers can be on site, can be on mobile, it can be on a desktop. I think that's all that you need to know, and I think that's all that needs to be. But essentially, that's what it can be, and it's Android. If it's Apple, it's just run as a desktop clock like that. So it's run on the Apple device just like that. There's no native application that we have specifically, but we have obviously that URL which makes all the difference in terms of that. Now remember, in terms of your costings, how do you build your costings in your timesheets? And remember, we touched on this a bit yesterday. How we build the costings is 2 ways: through pay types. We build in the pay types here. So what is it? We build normal time, we build overtime, we build meal allowances, we build whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And it could be a fixed amount, or it could be the multiplier of your base rate, right? Just like we've done here. So the overtime is a multiplier of 1.5, the normal time is 1, and the meal allowance is actually a fixed value of $20. So we build the pay types first, and then we go and build the pay rules, which I also exposed to you yesterday about. And there's quite a lot to be done here around training on yourself. Charlene will pick this up, but it'll be more of a learning challenge. And I've got a lot of documentation around this, which will tell you what rule is used in what scenario, how it's used, etc., etc. But essentially, yesterday we built that rule, and we built that rule that said on normal time is on any specific day, we're going to give it normal time. On overtime, between certain times of the day, or it might be specific days, and then a meal allowance is a fixed value at the end of the day. So that rule is then attached to an individual, and how we attach it to an individual is either in the employee master file itself. So if we go to JW and we go and look at JW over here, and we go and have a look at his finance and payroll, we'll see what payroll this guy's on. Now we might have multiple there might be multiple business payrolls, but this is attached to an individual. So we can either go and attach it to the individual in the employee master file, or like I showed you yesterday, we can go and do it in sort of bulk. So let's say, for example, I want to have a look at just the bartenders. There's no bartenders. I think it's main position. Yeah, we want to just look at the people in the main position. or we just want to look at a specific pay group. I think we've made everybody the same here. Yeah, we have. So there's no difference, yeah. But, you know, I maybe wanted to just go and have a look at specific people in specific places or positions or in the different payrolls. And then I want to go and do some changes to them. I can go and do as many changes as I want to all those individuals. So I can go and say, all right, with these people, let's just go and unclick that. Let's go and make 3 guys. Let's go and change these guys in terms of their modification. So let's modify their position to bartender. So let's make them all bartenders. Let's put them on a payroll called, you know, test payroll. Let's go and change their pay rate to maybe $20 per hour. And let's go and bulk update those 3 dudes. So now all of a sudden they're a bit different to the rest of the business, right? So if we had to go and look at bartenders, now we should have 3 people.
Okay.
So to change master file information, it's pretty easy, pretty jacked. I can also go and see a couple of additional things. So I can go and see ID type. If there is a sync error, I can go and see termination date. I can go, and you get the idea, but you can go rosterable role. You can go, you know, add position, leave rule, pay rate. I can even see the pay rate. So there's, in the South African instance, we've got a little bit of a problem on the visibility here. That's meant to be in rands. It's just a coding error. It's in rands everywhere else in the system, but for some reason in this area here, it's been positioned as dollars, but that's obviously rands. But I can see a whole bunch of other little items. So that should be changed in our upcoming version, which is tomorrow, in terms of our next release.
As long as it's not Zim dollars.
Yeah. As long as it's not Zim dollars. Yeah, 100%. So that sort of handles the timesheet and the costing element, and that's how we get the costing of the timesheet as well as the roster through to the system, and that's how the system knows how much money everybody's going to get paid, and effectively how much each timesheet's going to cost, and how that makes its way through to payroll from a pay runs point of view. Mm-hmm. Any questions on that?
No, all good so far.
So good. Right, so just some elements around the costing side as well. So if I wanted to go and recost every timesheet, I could go and click on it over there as bulk, and I could go and recost each timesheet. I might actually need to do this because there we go. So each timesheet should have costing now associated. Let's just see the guys that at least have timesheets. This happens sometimes with demo data. It doesn't work the way it should. Let's just have a squiz. Okay, so there's no costing here because I need to approve all of these timesheets. So let's go and approve it so it locks it in. And what it should do is ultimately cost each of those timesheets once it brings it across. Yep. These people don't have rates of pay in them, that's why. I think I need to go and just fix that for us. Just so your demo data looks better. Because at the moment, the good one is you, because you were brought on board as a proper employee, right? So that's why your costings are all there, your rate of pay is there, which is good. Right, so yeah, you could do quite a few things in this area, but this is where you approve or commit or change the status, etc. into that. Also, a nice one is you can expand all, so you can then see all the timesheets. There's your image. I don't know if you noticed that you can also see it on a map as well, so you can go and see where you actually clocked. Is that where you live, mate?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Is that quite spot on?
Doesn't look like that anymore.
Okay. All right, but it's pretty spot on. So yeah, that's how you can obviously see location as well. What else can I show you on timesheets? Yeah, so just on the alert side, we did touch on this a bit earlier, but the alerts govern the business rules that you want to create. So if you wanted to create a whole bunch of alerts for timesheets, so in other words, if the timesheet is not associated with a shift that was planned, block it or allow or at least flag it, but allow the person to approve it, right?
Yes.
So you can select, again, if it's an overlapping timesheet, so they've got two timesheets from two different places. It's possible because maybe you've got some buddy clocking going on, or maybe you've got some fraud going on, but you don't want to pay someone twice for the same job. So you want an overlapping timesheet to be blocked. Overlapping leave. So the guy's got a timesheet, but he's also he was on leave. Now this happens because, the guy's on leave, but they have some emergency. They phone him back. They phone him and say, listen, can you come in? I know you're on holiday, but can you come in today? Sure. He arrives, he clocks in, he clocks out, and there is a timesheet. So yes, you want it to be dismissible. You don't want to block it, but it depends. What does the customer actually want? If there's no clock in, if there's no clock out, like we experienced just now. So the timesheet's just been sort of completed by the manager. It hasn't been physically transacted with. Do you want those, or do you want to block those? The person has no access. In other words, the person's clocked in at a location that he doesn't have access to. Now, why would this be a problem? Is the fact that maybe he shouldn't be there. So do you want him to do that? Are you a business that deploys staff across multiple locations? If you are, then you're going to need that. Multiple clock-ins and clock-outs. So I clock in 5 times, never clock out for some reason. I'm a bit doof. Do you want that to be blocked, or do you want to let that happen? Incomplete break. That's obviously I've started a break, but I haven't ended my break. So do you want to block that, or do you want to let it do it? Server mismatch. This is a cool one. So sometimes the guys figure out, and we've had this happen, right? They figure out they change the time of the tablet by 5 minutes. And then they clock in and they think that the time will go buy them an extra 5 minutes, right? Fucking these are
amazing, eh?
These fucking acts. So what happens is, if that time that comes from the tablet does not match the server time in South Africa, it will ring it up as a
temper.
Yeah. And the last one is obviously invalid photo. So if you've got facial recognition switched on, which you're going to find out how to do all these things with Charlene, then if that threshold is 90%, so it has to look 90% like me. We don't do anything over 95%, and we don't do anything under 30%, because then that's stupid. You might as well just hold up a picture. So are you going to block that timesheet, or are you going to make it dismissible? So that's obviously Nigel clocked in for JW Ward, which is your buddy clock-in thing that you don't want. So some customers don't have that issue. They don't want the facial recognition on. They'd rather just have it off. It does cost an extra 10 Rand per user per month to have facial recognition on. And that's because we use the AWS service, the Amazon Web Service, for facial recognition. It actually costs us $1 a month per employee. So yeah, if they've got that on, it is an additional cost, but obviously it's up to the customer. Those alerts also work on the shift. So when I talk about the shift, I'm talking about the roster. So we can actually stop this problem of overlapping shifts at the roster level, and it will never get to the timesheet level, if that makes sense, right? So we can stop that problem up here rather than at the timesheet. But sometimes, people want to over roster people and they only expect them to come in for one shift. So it depends on, it's creating that flexibility. That's what the alert side of the system effectively does. Okay, mate, that's timesheets. What I was going to give you a bit of homework today, to go and sort of clock in, clock out. But I think what you could do for today and tomorrow is go and download that clocker. Go and allocate your own clocker to your own site, like I've shown you. Again, mate, if you need any help, like around knowledge-based articles and stuff, like devices. I type in device and it will tell me how to set up my tablet and how to go and download it or anything here. These knowledge-based articles are all there for our customers to use. And if you have a problem, you can actually go and chat with one of our team members.
You showed me that the other day. That's somebody answering out of Singapore, isn't it?
Philippines, but we've actually got 2 new staff members starting today, funny enough, in South Africa. So some Sappers will be joining our support team in Sapper time zone. All cool, just testing. So go and download a clocker. What I would do with this for your demo purposes, Joe, is just bookmark this page. Yes. Right. So once you do it, bookmark it. So every time that you want to go onto it, you don't have to add a new device. If you're going to go and do a demo to a customer, you can just bring up your bookmark and it will put it straight on the site for you.
All right.
So go and clock in, clock out a few more times. Go and play around with the roster. Pay from roster. Go to if we had to look at next week as an example. We've got no planned shifts. Oh, we do. We've got a whole bunch of planned shifts for next week. You can see, what do I do if I complete a timesheet for Jason? It moves from there to there.
Yes.
But no clock in, clock out, right? Because I was the manager that just now completed the timesheet. What happens if I go and pay from roster for all of these? All of these will move up to here and become physical timesheets for that for those employees. Go and play around with the look and view, go and play around with the clock in, see what happens when you clock in and not out, see what happens when you clock out but not in, and just, get a feel for that process, and maybe go and add some of those timesheets to the pay run that we've had, and then we can go and have a look at that part tomorrow in the next part of our training.
Cool. Got it.
Good stuff. All right, bud. Well, thanks very much for your time, and we'll pick it up. We'll pick it up tomorrow.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Enjoy the afternoon.
You too, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.